Hey guys, how we doing? This video is going to be about my 2003 Ford Taurus Centennial Edition with the 3-liter Duratec engine in it. This car has about 115,000 miles on it. Actually, almost 116 now. And yesterday, I took on with a friend of mine the task of doing the spark plugs and wires and some other tune-up things on this car in preparation for winter time so that it's all good to go. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of what went on during that process. I had watched various YouTube videos and looked at some of the posts in the Ford Taurus forums and stuff on this engine. You know, there were people that were saying you can get to the back 3 spark plugs, you know, simply by removing this cowl shielding right here, and you know, you can get back there and everything. You know, while I did remove that, I could actually see one of the back 3 plugs. No, you're not getting to the back 3 plugs. So basically what you got to do, you got to remove this intake plenum here. So when I was in a few weeks ago, after I'd ordered the plugs and wires and they got here and I took a look, pulled one of the front 3 plugs just to take a look and see their condition. And what I had found was that, you know, they were really old. They were Autolite. I think they were AP 104s, which is like original equipment for this car, I believe. Yeah, they were firing okay, and the gap looked good on them, the one that I pulled. However, there was a large amount of oil in the threads, which basically means these valve cover gaskets have to come apart because it means that the spark plug seals are leaking. So I ordered up valve cover gaskets, I ordered up upper intake gaskets, and, you know, a whole bunch more parts. And that EGR gaskets, because that's got to come off when you remove the upper intake. And, you know, so it turned into a little bit of a job, but it really shouldn't have been a very complex job. If you watch the videos, they make it, you know, I guess what I learned, you know, long story short, what I learned from some of the other YouTube videos that I've seen on this is, you know, I guess those guys want to give you the best possible scenario. You know, when I pulled that upper intake yesterday, thank God, my friend was here and helped me with that project. He's 57 years old, been working on cars since he was 14. I've been working on cars since I was 14. I'm 37. But, you know, thank God he has more patience with removing gaskets, old gasket material than me. I mean, I'm the guy that worked with small block Chevys and that little air-powered tool with the gasket removal, that, you know, piece that you put on it and then it's all done, you know, like small block Chevys and Fords at the valve cover gaskets and stuff. But I'll tell you what, should have been a fairly simple job if you watch the videos and you read in the Taurus forums. Turned out to take all day because whoever was in here and did repairs previously, or maintenance previously, and removed this upper intake, because it's been off a couple times, they put the gaskets in, the intake plenum gaskets, they glued them in. So there was all kinds of RTV silicone and goop in there and unnecessary amounts of crap. Guys, those gaskets are supposed to go on dry. You're not supposed to don't need to use RTV silicone to hold those gaskets in place. If you have to, you have a problem, and you need to go over your work again. So that was the upper intake, the story of the upper intake, and that took a long time to get clean. Front valve cover was pretty straightforward. I took care of that, and my buddy helped me with removing residual from the old gasket on there. That had been done. However, they didn't do the spark plug seals right, so they had popped out. One of them was actually sitting on top of the little hole. We took it out, and funnily enough, that was the plug that had oil on the threads when I pulled it out. So I said, you know what, let me inspect the back ones while we had the plenum up, and we just took the plenum and folded it up and tied it over here to the shock for the hood and kept it out of the way. And we basically worked on it and put the gaskets on it that way, and then back down, torque it in place. Yes, I got a torque wrench. Everything was torqued to spec. And we pulled the back valve cover. What a fiasco that was, because you have to remove the coil pack, and then there's a ground strap back there that actually mounts to the bracket for the coil pack. A couple other things had to be unplugged, and we actually just wound up pulling the whole coil pack out of here with the plug wires on it, and just to get it out of the way so we could do the work and remove the valve cover. And that was a hell of a job. And then you had a mess there. And then, while I had it apart, I heard a lot of stories. I knew I needed the EGR valve gaskets, so I ordered up a couple of them. We had them on hand. And I said, while I'm in there, and I looked, I said, you know what? We're going to do the PCV valve while we're in here, too, because I hear all the horror stories about these cars coding, and the hose, the original hose was no good that goes to the valve is no good. There's a little elbow piece on it that collapses and then it cracks and splits over time. Well, mine was completely collapsed on this car, so I'm glad I ordered the valve. Get a Motorcraft part when you order that. If you don't want to pay the dealer price, Rock Auto has them. You know, order up your parts. We used a Gates hose, but the PCV valve itself is actually Motorcraft part. And then the rest of it's just basically, you know, the easy part was like the sensors, your throttle position sensor, the IAC, and these vacuum lines and all that shit. That all came off real easy and went back together real easy. We had all remembered that. And then you got this one here, you got this, and these vacuum lines here. But, you know, it's a fairly simple job if the person that did the work before you did a good job. But if they did a good job, chances are you're probably not in there going over their work again, unless it's, you know, you drive a lot of miles on your car and it's time to put new plugs in it already. You know, this one, you know, this car here is 15 years old. It only has just under 116,000 on it. You know, because it hasn't been driven a whole lot in its lifetime. So I'm just now starting to do service work that people that had these cars probably did years ago. But anyway, that's my thoughts. I mean, when you go in and do this, guys, put the valve cover gaskets on dry. You can use a little bit of gasket maker material, like it comes in a can, like that Pam spray that you use to spray your frying pans with before you start cooking. There's like a gasket maker material. I believe Permatex makes it. You can spray your gaskets and your valve and your spark plug seals after you put them on. That stuff goes on thin. It won't goop up like the silicone, and it'll help. You know, it'll help hold them in place anyway. And if you're worried about the gaskets coming out of the channels, because actually these valve covers, the intakes, they all have little channels that your gaskets go in, and they're supposed to go on dry. If them some bitches are coming out and they're falling out, you need to go back and go over your work again because you didn't do something right or you didn't clean the channels out right. So, and you know, before you get into this, I'm going to recommend this. Unless you absolutely are, you know, you're more than a weekend warrior, you're an ASE certified mechanic with 100 million years of experience working on these things, and you know you can do the job yourself, I would say absolutely have another pair of hands here. I would not have been able to knock this job out in the amount of time, or probably at all, without my friend who's been, you know, doing this stuff since, like I said, he's in his late 50s. He's been messing with cars since he was 14. You know, I wouldn't have been able to complete the work myself. I would have had to do a little bit of it and then wait for him to come over and help me finish. And, you know, this car gets driven 5 days a week, so, you know, it has to be in running condition. I can't have it driving around spitting and sputtering and coughing. So, that would be my recommends, okay? So, if you're going to do the plugs and wires, this is your EGR valve. Buy gaskets, buy 2 of them for it. You're going to need these gaskets here from the upper to lower intake. Your valve cover gaskets will come with the seals and the new grommets that go underneath these bolts here. Yes, there are, guys, there are grommets. You see that valve cover bolt there, the little orange underneath of that? That's a grommet. You replace all of them when you put them on. We did that on both valve covers. Trying to think of what else you're going to need. Plugs, wires. While you're in there, I was able to replace the PCV valve without removing the lower intake manifold. We left it right in place, so I didn't get into that. You'll have all this stuff right here. This will all be out of the way when you're working on it. And all you really need to do, guys, you buy your hose, obviously, and your valve. If you have like a 1/2-inch drive ratchet and a 12.78 socket and an extension, you can fit in there and actually get that PCV valve out. My friend had it out in like 45 seconds. I mean, it probably took him longer to fit the tool in there because it's in kind of an awkward spot on this motor. It's way down there, and you really can't see it from the camera. But he had it out. It took him longer to get the tool in there to where the valve was than it did to remove and replace the valve with a new one. So, no, you do not need to split. You do not need to remove the lower intake to get to the PCV valve. It's a little bit harder job, but you can get it done in a couple of minutes without splitting the lower intake manifold from the engine. That does not need to be done. Other than that, it's just basically straightforward. Plug your sensors back in, your vacuum lines and stuff. Get the firing order right, because we had a couple of them backwards when we put it on, so I had to go to the book. And this thing started coding right away. Had misfire on number 5. So as soon as we got the firing order right, it smoothed out and it runs like a brand new car. I'll tell you what, this thing has pickup now that it never had before. Some bitch runs real good. I actually did a burnout with it yesterday for the first time since I had it. And you know what? When you stomp it, it pulls solid all the way to the red line now on the tack. So I'm very happy with the way this turned out. And hopefully those of you any of you own Tauruses with this motor, I hope hopefully some of my information in this video was helpful to you. Because like I said, the videos on YouTube, those guys are great and they know what they're doing. But I guess they just assume the best possible scenario. And any of you that are like me, you tear a car apart, you're never going to get the best possible scenario. So all I'm saying is those guys are good. Their videos are very helpful and useful information. But be prepared to, be prepared for more than just the best possible scenario. Because it's probably going to be the worst possible scenario or somewhere right in the middle. I thank you for watching. Come on back anytime and see my videos. Oh yeah, gotta show you this part too. Little red line for a good time. Just in case any of you guys hear, the exhaust system will be getting attention on this car next. It's solid, but the muffler's getting a little noisy, so it's going to be going in the exhaust shop pretty soon. And then that's pretty much it. She's pretty much ready for winter now. This thing runs like a top. So, thanks again for watching.